Hey folks, what up? Dr. Dan in the house. Ozark MMJ cards. Trying to dispel some myths today, guys. Monday Microdose, we're going to play some Mythbusters. Love to talk about some marijuana and learning. Hot topic. Let me get a little wet the whistle a little bit. Pardon me, not COVID again, guys. Just want to clear the throat before I get into the talking. So, guys, a lot of stuff swirling around marijuana, its effects on the mind. If marijuana didn't have an effect on the mind, I'm sure people wouldn't use it. It's known for its enlightening insight and provocative nature to really just excite the mind and bring bring the attitude a sense of peace and really slow things down as far as blocking out a lot of the intrusive white noise that keeps us from focusing our and directing our thoughts in a meaningful, positive manner, right? And that's really something I wanted to talk about today. A really important point about how the mechanism of action of marijuana works in doing what it does and the importance of how that works in terms of actually getting a positive result. All right. So why don't we focus already on what we do know? And I think we can use that as momentum, as a great base, and build off of that knowledge, what we already do know. And I think the rest will really follow quite logically, and we'll just fill in some of the scientific jargon in the middle, just to shed a little bit more background on it. But the principles are really quite simple. When you think about the principles, there's just a science behind it to explain the chemical mechanics behind what's going on and where. All right. So let's just jump into it. All right. Big concept I wanted to jump into right off the bat is this idea of synaptic plasticity. All right. And why it's a big word, when you think about the synapses, guys, we're talking about where the junction where two nerves meet and talk to each other. All right. So it's the nerve junction where they're exchanging messages through neurotransmitters that's being shot from one side over to the other, and they can go forward and backwards. They can go in both directions. All right. So funny enough, the way marijuana works is it will affect the nerve number 2, the second one in line, and have that one send a message backwards, retrograde, to the nerve number 1. All right. And affect its neurotransmitter release, essentially telling it to pump out more neurotransmitter or pump out less or pump out a different one. You could be talking about epinephrine, norepinephrine. These are adrenaline, noradrenaline. These are the things that increase heart rate, affect the sympathetic activity, that sort of thing. We can also have other hormones affected, other neurotransmitters, serotonin, the happy hormone, dopamine, the calm hormone. Calm and happy, not exactly synonymous, but they can and oftentimes do go together. You can be happy and elated and, in an excited state, at which time, you'd have more of the cortisol, more of the sympathetic, the adrenaline type thing. If you just won the world championship, so you're happy and high, versus subdued and happy when you just get a good feeling, but you're more in a calm state in which you'd have less of that epinephrine and more of that dopamine. All right. So just little finer points to consider. Now, guys, in that vein, I want to get back to this idea of synaptic plasticity, because the important thing of how marijuana works as a mechanism of action in terms of adjusting how our brains work in a positive way, right? Not a negative way. It's almost intuitive. Think about the state when you go from just your regular coming, going, you're at the office, to when you go home, you load up the pipe or you hit up the dryer vaporizer and you get yourself a couple of good puffs. You get that good microdose going on where you're in that zone and not too stoned, but you're really in that comfort zone, in that sweet spot, right there in that therapeutic window. Something is going on, right? Something is going on that's a positive thing. Okay. And we often wonder, well, how does this relate to, how does this positive feeling that we get, how does it relate to our learning? How, we're talking about a feeling thing versus a learning thing, and how we habituate ourselves to certain behaviors and certain thoughts. Well, the thing that underlies that is, during that time, while we're medicated, while we're high, euphoric, whatever you want to call it, it's an elevated state of mind. So it doesn't make sense to get caught up in all this jargon or whatever. We're getting high. That's what's going on. Okay. So when we're in that state, what's going on, the plasticity, what's going on, the fluidity and the changing of the nerve terminals, the changing of what's going on as far as the neurotransmitter release and the rate of neurotransmitter release and the rate of that nerve firing. What's happening with marijuana is it's adjusting that whole potential. Okay. That's what we're talking about when we're talking about synaptic plasticity, meaning this is a dynamic and changing and fluid environment in our central nervous system, the way that these nerves communicate with each other. All right. And what happens is, when the marijuana binds to its CB1 receptor, it's going to affect from the second nerve in the line. It's going to go backwards and affect that first nerve and change the way that it fires. It's going to change the type of neurotransmitter, or, the rate of signaling. The whole point behind it is, when we go from state of unmedicated to medicated, with marijuana products, what's happening is it's changing the kind of neurotransmitters that are going by, that are being exchanged between one nerve and another, and bringing you back to that equilibrium point. All right. That equilibrium point is where we're feeling in that sweet spot. That's what we've been hankering for the whole day, while we're droning away at these jobs that we might or might not like. Probably not. But, the whole time as we're going through our day, and it could be many days leading up to that, that's how we develop an endocannabinoid deficit. The calculus of life requires some work, and the whole concept behind synaptic plasticity is being able to be dynamic and fluid in being able to bring ourselves back to a natural set point. All right, getting ourselves back to a native set point. That's the whole idea behind the nerves being able to adjust their chemical composition, their chemical milieu, what's being exchanged between one nerve to another. How that's achieved is through the endocannabinoid system. Okay, the whole point behind it, when it's working in its native state, is to bring about a sense of homeostasis and balance in the central nervous system. That's the whole basis behind the synaptic plasticity, being able to change something when it's out of balance. That's what we're talking about, plasticity, just being dynamic and not being stuck in a state of stagnation, and not being able to really move your way out of that. With the benefit of cannabis medicines, we have that luxury of being able to get ourselves alter the chemical composition in our central nervous system and peripherally, such that we can bring ourselves back to a natural homeostatic balance. So when we're talking about synaptic plasticity and learning, let's just okay. So I just wanted to form that basis to just get some bedrock under it. Okay, guys, and we build off of that logically in this tower. All right, we'll build this knowledge tower. So we've already established that we can change our state of mind from one state to another through the benefit of that dynamic nature, the chemical nature behind THC binding and the accessory cannabinoids. Now, what's going on as far as learning, because life is really, guys, when we look at the great trajectory of life, the way I see it as a physician, it's really just a culmination, a sum total of a bunch of conscious decisions that we make. All right. These things that turn into actions, these thoughts and behaviors that oftentimes will come out of the verbiage that not only do we say verbally with our mouths, but also as messages that we send to ourselves. Okay. The messages that we send to ourselves are powerful. All right. These have a strong correlation with how we go about our actions. All right. The self-directed talk, that's a real thing. Let me just say that, marijuana or not. The thing is, the difference is the self-directed messages, once we've blocked out the white noise, okay, once we've decided marijuana has sort of jump-started the engine towards directionalizing our thoughts, towards the kind of thing that we seek for in our own subconscious internal balance. Now the messages that we tell to ourselves, they ring louder and clearer. Okay, that's just the thing that I wanted to land on as far as introspection. And this is not a thing that we have a ton of control over. It's just we do have control over what we say to ourselves, but the fact that it's magnified and amplified, that's sort of the reasoning behind marijuana having an effective, sustainable effect, right? The things that we tell ourselves and the sort of messages that we decide to take as inputs and then flip as outputs, they have more of a lasting effect when we have that influence of marijuana under ourselves. Okay. So when I'm talking about being self-directed in terms of our learning, the habits that we seek to reinforce are going to be stronger reinforced when we get a clear message that rings true with ourselves and our value systems, right? We always seek out the things that we know are going to be in our comfort zone when we have that benefit of cannabis medicines, right? We're going to always seek out that comfort zone or seek out that equilibrium point, all right? So in doing so, really what I'm getting at here, folks, this is really that golden window, that prime opportunity to prime the engine and seek out those behaviors that will be positively reinforced by the marijuana experience. Things always tend to work out better when we associate it with a positive experience. Think about all the best times, the best memories that you've had in your life. Those things ring true. Of course, with trauma, those things ring true as well, but just because they ring so hard in the other direction. And the great thing about synaptic plasticity is we can change the chemical composition so that we reinforce more of the good memories. And those that we sort of hold as garbage over time and chemical habituation, we can put those further into the garbage can, and we can reinforce more good memories and try and propagate and create more good memories through that positive association that you get with cannabis medicines. That's the whole that's really the whole drive of this underpinning when I'm talking about synaptic plasticity. That's just saying that we can really reorient how we file our memories and how we orient the compass of our thoughts through chemical manipulation and through our own volition, through our own action. The kinds of things that we do when we medicate, those are going to have an impact. And I want that to really land. The kinds of activities that we engage into, I strongly encourage you to try and partake in those positive things, that journaling, the healthy food prep, even sitting down and having a good think and trying to work out some of the things that might be bugging you. When we take on these actions and they're reinforced by that enlightened introspection, we land on a much stronger resolve, really in the long run. So I wanted to open up that door to you guys, just so you know, the learning aspect of things in a lot of cases can be heightened and enhanced through the work of medical marijuana, through its chemical action. So I wanted to dispel sort of this idea that your brain is going to fry away into this fried egg sort of gelatinous gunk. Of course, with abuse and overuse of marijuana, there is that idea that there could be a lot of the mental sort of psychomotor slowing, okay, which I can totally co-sign on. But, for practical purposes, properly dosed, properly microdosed and used marijuana, no, quite the other case. If as long as you can block out the noise but remain linear in your thoughts, I think a lot of positivity can happen. And that's really the thing that I'm looking to get with the relationship with myself and my patients. And that's sort of what we preach here along with other staff here at my company at Ozark MMJ Cards. Cannabis medicines are really a catalyst for greater quality of life, not just greater quality of life, longer life. That's another discussion right there, but I'd encourage you guys to check out my blog on the marijuana mitochondrial function and its total, it really, in a nutshell, what marijuana does, its net effect is antioxidant activity to the nerves, the nerve cell, the nerve junction, as well as the myelin sheath that houses the nerve, sort of like its resistive shell. All right. So that's just something I wanted to dig into. Its net function is an antioxidant, life preserving, nerve preserving function that really just keeps the central nervous system in balance so that it can react and adapt to the stresses of life that net cause an endocannabinoid deficit. So it really just brings things back into balance so that we can actually achieve progress and make positive change. Okay. So I wanted to dispel a lot of this negative change where it's put out through popular media or press or what have you, that the use of marijuana can head you down a definite road of despair and that sort of thing. And I wanted to really change the narrative as much as I can through diligent work, that really the whole prospect of marijuana and the promise that it holds is less of a cure hardcore to a lot of things, but really just another tool in our tool belt for longevity and being able to live a longer life just through better maintenance and reinforcing better habits by really just reinforcing a better attitude and a better mood, better outlook, better approach. All of these things, they're dominoes that ultimately do have an effect. Everything in medicine is about that domino and where we're at. Anyway, that's my 2 cents on the Mondays, on the Monday, guys. I'm going to get back to it. Hope you guys have a great week. It's always great talking to you guys. Hope to give you guys a whole lot more medical cannabis information. Till then, guys, be well, be safe. Take care of each other. Treat each other nice. All that good stuff. Dr. Dan.